Hey guys, Buckeye Bar Guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, and that way, anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
And tonight's date is Friday, January 6th, 2023. And we're going to talk about the heartbreaking loss from last weekend, the playoffs. And then we'll move into just some kind of just throw out some opinions on different things that we'd like to see for next year. Just things that we feel that needs to be changed, addressed, and all that stuff. Obviously, how you rate the year kind of depends on your feelings. The loss to Michigan at the end of the season left a lot of, sour taste in a lot of people's mouth, us included. And then, as we talked about on the show prior to the game, we were kind of bouncing back and forth, between optimism and pessimism before
Cautiously optimistic.
the Georgia game. And, they ended up coming out and they looked unbelievable for, pretty much the whole game. And, it just slipped away there at the end. So we'll be getting into that. But just kind of your general thoughts about the game, and then I'll throw some of mine out there. It was an emotional roller coaster. There was a point you saw in the first quarter, early second quarter, it's like, okay, we can hang with these guys. And then the game started pulling away, and then it comes back. And then it's like third quarter, we're going to blow them out. And then.
Yeah, no, there's definitely ebbs and flows to the game. It went 7-7, and then they missed a couple field goals, and it's like we got an interception in there. We went up 21-7. There was two different points in the game. We were up 14 points. We said, you got to be aggressive. We felt like there was a good chance to be aggressive against the secondary. Day did a masterful job. It looks like game planning, going into it. And it just didn't quite work out. There was a lot of injuries to talk about also, but they were up 14 two different times. If you would have told me that Kirby Smart would have settled for 4 field goals and missed 2 of them, yeah. I would have thought we won the game easily.
Yeah, I agree. Just kind of it just sucks that the even quarters ended up belonging to them.
Yeah.
And that's where they, made enough hay to get, to end up winning the game at the end of the, and right from the beginning, it was like, once Stroud hit the Marv on that touchdown, like, to me, it was like, okay, we definitely know what we were saying about Georgia's secondary. I'm like, okay, we were right there, that they were, that there was definitely spots to exploit them. LSU exploited them, and we were a lot better than LSU.
And that's not even calling someone a bad secondary. It's just, it's hard in college to play against good to elite level receivers. Yeah. You just can't cover people forever unless you're really special, and they're just a step below that. So it's nothing like, oh, their secondary is trash. It's just like, they're not the Legion of Boom back there either, though.
Well, and just like, when you're moving from high school to college, even at the Georgia and Ohio State levels, not every one of these guys are going on to the next level. So right. There are mismatches there. Marv Jr. is going to the next level. He's going to be something at the next level, as long as he stays healthy. The kid could go now if he really wanted to.
Don't give him any ideas.
No, I don't think, hopefully he won't try it, but so yeah, there was definitely places to exploit them there, and they showed that. Now, of course, we obviously felt there was places that, we could be exploited in the secondary, and we were, a lot of the different times that, seemed like got corrected through the year, some of the issues we had last year and the year before at different times that, started rearing its ugly head, at the end of this season, and that kind of was exploited a lot in this game. Again, bad angles, bad tackling, guys in the secondary falling down. Like I have never seen a team that falls down more than us. Like, I don't know if we need to address something with Nike.
I mean, that's going back to the 90s.
Like, yeah, I get it. It seems like it happens more over the last few years than, even then. But
no, we definitely cannot keep our footing whatsoever. I mean, it's crazy. Like,
so, there's just stuff there that I'm like, okay, do we need to, like I said, do we need to address things with Nike? I don't know, but so it was obviously, and they kind of like Fowler and Herbstreit, they kind of snickered. They were at the beginning of the game when they, Ryan Day said that you're going to need to score a lot of points in this game. Ends up Ryan Day was absolutely 100% correct.
Right.
That, they had, and, he had a great game plan for you, considering you're down Trey, mine can't walk, like, I mean, he gets in there, again, I'm part of me is like, even though he ends up scoring a touchdown, should he even have played at that point? It's like,
but he did run hard the times he was in there. I was shocked though that he was nowhere near as healthy as what they made him sound.
Yeah, I was on that too. Stover goes out, and Rossi comes in. I mean, he looks really good, but again, he's limited. Was always primarily the blocking back, but I kind of felt like they were running the ball fairly well against Georgia in the spots they were doing it. So I'm like, I kind of thought, there was kind of a couple spots in there where maybe they could have ran it a little bit more. Like Georgia's defensive line to me wasn't as all out as I thought, what a lot of people made them out to be. I personally felt like Ohio State's offensive line won that battle the whole game. And like,
yeah, I agree with that. I feel like, I think they did eat up some bodies. So I think they did their job because that's primarily what they use them for. But I do think Ohio State did more than just hold their own. I think they won the individual battles as well. I think they could have established a run more so in that game, but it was always kind of coming into it. We always said like, you got to run, but running's kind of a distraction. Running's like to keep a defense honest. It's going to be a passing game. And it was, and I think it was called for the most part pretty perfectly. Perfectly is probably a strong word for that, but it was a good play. It was a good game plan, good play calling. And I hear people say this, and it's like, as much as it hurts in a great game, somebody's got to lose. And it sucks so bad being on the other, the losing side of that. But somebody does have to lose that game.
Yeah. And,
and I don't like having that loser mentality, but it's true. Like,
no, it's definitely true. I think the thing that, I think the thing that hurt the most to me is that, and we were just talking about this prior to us actually, hitting the record button, that, for them to lose you're up 14 points going in the fourth and you lose the game. And I get it. Marv gets hurt, but a receiver, and I get it. That's on top of all the other injuries that they had. So there's a lot of injuries in there, and you're running Xavier Johnson when you're not expecting to be running Xavier Johnson in those types of situations. But like, it's not like you would think that you go completely deflate yourselves when you lose a quarterback, but like, they didn't lose Stroud. I mean, Stroud is doing stuff that people have been calling for him all year to do. It just seems like that, losing one receiver, and I get it. And then when you then you got to go back and think about, well, it's one receiver on top of everything else that they've lost that, and he was so dominant in that game, but it just seems like you should be able to find something to plug in, or,
I agree.
Or you need to get on the phone to Jim Knowles and be like, okay, we need to really start slow playing this. And, like, you can't have that touchdown where, again, it's for how long in that game, they're holding up their own for the most part, but, with, spots here and there, but, and then they go for the all out blitz again, and, Ransom falls down, and, the guy's wide open. Like that can't happen when you're up 2 touchdowns. Like, and I get it. Everybody's like, well, I'm not saying run the prevent defense too and give them up. No, just run the normal, zone defense and try to keep things inside windows and stuff like that. And, force them to at least, like, even if it's like they're in a hurry up offense, and even if it's a 3-minute drive, it's still a drive that's still 3 minutes that they're not going to get back, that instead of scoring 40 seconds, it felt like that touchdown was.
Yeah, I mean, that was right away. So yeah, I agree. I mean, you're up 11 at that point. You just like, and I've said this to you online, you lost Marv. You were just, diminished, or you know where I'm going with that. You're just like, you don't have the offensive weapons that you did. You were limping towards the finish line. Like, you have to just say, Jim, like, make these guys waste a little bit of time to score this. Like, if we need to, we can get aggressive next series, whatever, but let my offense stay off the field for a little bit. Let me get a game plan together. Let me, think about what plays I want to call, but make these guys just drain the clock on themselves. And it was like, nope, no, we're just going to give up a 76-yard touchdown. And I've complained, that the fastest guy in the field ends up on a safety in the slot. But like you said, that's what teams do. They motion their weapons to get favorable matchups. And I completely get that. It's just like, it's just so heartbreaking that you're up by 14 and that's how that ends up. I mean, you're outscored in the fourth quarter, 18-3. And it's like, well, if we only scored 5 instead of 3, it's like, man, that's sometimes feels like kind of a loser mentality. And, like, shouldn't have gave up 18. Like,
no, I agree. And that's, like I said, I just wish that they could have just slowed them down just enough, And I thought the defensive line actually played a pretty good game. It seemed, I felt like Bennett was in a much more, was under a lot more pressure in the game from our defensive line than we were from their defensive line. So,
well, those huge chunk plays, though, I mean, they'll make anyone's stat line look good at the end of the day,
And I'm just like, hey, let's play back some. And maybe you go to Larry Johnson and be like, I need your boys to win this game.
You got to dig down, man.
I mean, Harrison had a good game. JTT had a pretty good game. I mean, Sawyer was in there a couple different times. I mean,
which I can't even remember the play. Harrison was this close to ripping the ball right out Stetson Bennett's hand. That wasn't the touchdown, was it?
No,
it was a big gain though.
Yeah. That was like,
oh my God. I'm just like, oh my God, he's gonna get the ball. He's gonna get the ball. He's gonna get the ball. And then it's like, nope, completion.
Yeah, he just missed it too. But I like, and then at that point you also could throw, and then you could kind of throw in some zone blitzes, maybe drop a couple defensive linemen into coverage, and, I mean, especially when you're looking for guys like tight ends and stuff like that. I mean,
and Darnell Washington gets hurt in the first quarter, man.
Yeah.
Like,
so, I mean, there's definitely plenty of opportunities, and I just wish they would have took a different defensive approach in the fourth quarter. So
yeah,
that's where my frustrations really lie. I mean, there's some nitpicking things that I could go with Ryan Day that, I could feel like they could have ran it a little bit more once you saw that the running game was working. Because maybe if you add a minute on to a drive earlier in the game that takes away, later in the game, there is, stuff like that happens. But obviously the big thing I think we need to talk about is really what changed the game is that, not only does Marvin Harrison, get knocked out of the game, but I mean, for them to pick up the targeting penalty, I mean, like, we were talking to our dad and he's like, that's in the end zone too. And so it's, they're going to have that ball, pretty close to, I mean, I know it's not a pass interference. Oh no, penalty in the end zone goes right to it would just,
yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, at least would have been half the distance.
Yeah.
But.
I mean, I don't remember quite exactly where we were, but we're probably a lot closer. And then it's like, even if you're within the 5-yard line, I mean, they settle for a field goal, they get the field goal. But if you run 3 running plays there and you take a minute and a half off the clock, I mean, and then even if you have to settle for the field goal, well, that's a minute and a half that they don't have now
right
at the end of the game. So, I mean, obviously that ended up killing them. We've complained how many times over the years that I still don't understand what even though they've supposedly like made things more clearer this year. I still don't understand what the damn definition of targeting is. That
yeah, beats the hell out of me. I don't know.
I mean, he's a defenseless receiver there. The guy launches at. Maybe they touched shoulders, but he also touched his head, and like their helmets hit each other, and
right.
so I don't know how that's not considered launching towards the neck and head area like that. He's defenseless, and you launch like that's all the points that you need for that to be targeting at that point.
Well, my issue with it is the irrefutable evidence that you would pick that flag up. I mean, it was called on the field. Whether, I don't know if it's a targeting or not. I mean, I think it is because I realize that they might have hit shoulder pads first, but it's, the neck and head area of a defenseless receiver. I mean, I thought it was textbook targeting.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong, whatever. I mean, admit that I've been wrong before.
And sometimes on some of that stuff, I get annoyed with the shoulder pads were touching each other. It'd be like, your shoulders are pretty much, they're parallel to your neck.
There's some bad non-targeting calls in this bowl season.
I mean, how can you say that they weren't aiming for the person's neck or head if they just touched their shoulder? They didn't touch down here. They touched up.
Right.
It was a high shoulder pad. So he was aiming, just because the shoulder pad deflected it a little bit, doesn't mean he wasn't aiming for that spot. And so,
yeah,
that was a horrendous call, in my opinion. And I thought the refs did pretty good. I had nothing to complain about with the refs. I mean, it wasn't the Clemson game in 19 where they made a lot of boneheaded mistakes. I mean, I thought there was a couple nitpicky things for the refs, but I thought they were fair on both sides. But that was the one where they screwed that one up, and
they actually almost made the best boneheaded play ever for Ohio State on that fake punt. But it was such an obvious formation that Kirby got that timeout called, which I've seen a lot of Ohio State fans mad that they felt like the play was snapped and, there was no signal to call the play dead for a timeout before it got snapped, which I can kind of agree with, or I can see their point for that. But we also did have 12 guys on the field.
I mean, that's a call that's the ref's call on the sides if they feel like that. If they heard it prior to the even if it's a millisecond prior,
sometimes that takes a second to register what you're hearing too.
So it's like, there's been times even, not so much in this game, but there's been, I'm sure, plenty of times when you go back looking through the things. I mean, Ohio State, from Urban to Ryan Day, they've called a lot of timeouts over the years when, the clock's running out on them. And I'm sure some of them have been right after, the clock hit zero, but that's the ref's decision.
Yeah.
And thank God that's not a reviewable call, because I would hate to start getting into nitpick territory.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's like, did it hit zero or did the snap come off, and them doing camera snaps next to each other? And so, I mean, that's something that happens in football. That's a football thing that I'm not going to get upset about that. I think out of all of them, I was upset that Kirby caught it. Even though I think the 12 guys, I actually think that is reviewable. So they probably would have, because I know.
No, that's not reviewable.
Isn't it reviewable on defense though?
I don't think so.
Because I think, yeah, it is, because they can go back and look at that.
Oh.
And,
I mean, I was listening. I don't know. Bobby Carpenter said he didn't think it was reviewable.
Oh, maybe it isn't, but I'm pretty sure a couple games prior I saw where they did do it on a defense that they buzzed down to double check it. Maybe it's not reviewable for the offense.
I don't know. I honestly don't know that.
Yeah, I'm not sure 100% not too, but I thought it was the one that really sucked was when Rossi ended up, that 4th and 1 or whatever.
Yeah, I know, man. That was a beautiful call, and he had that illegal motion.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple spots in there where they hurt themselves and stuff like that. But the offensive line did good on their penalties. There wasn't no major issues. There wasn't a lot of drive killers. So kudos to all that stuff. I was happy how they ended up playing. I just wish that they would have just a different defensive philosophy. And like I said, a couple of things I could have nitpicked on. I kind of wish, they did that one running play on that last drive, after they're already in field goal range. I kind of wished on the next play they still had the timeout. They would have tried to, especially how much he was running at that point. I wish they would have rolled Stroud out to the maybe give him a passing option out there, and then if the passing option's not open, take off with it. I would prefer. I know that Ruggles kicked his first field goal was on the left hash. Also, it's just I feel like that the one thing he does do, even though he doesn't miss a lot of field goals, he does tend to hook him a little bit, but a lot of times he's kicking from the right. It always feels like that, a hook still goes through.
Yeah.
So I think he just does a little bit better from the right hash mark, but it looks like he didn't hit the plant leg just as well as he could have. I know there's some things they were saying to, maybe the ball wasn't being held as well from Mirko as it could have been, but that's kind of what happens. That stuff happens. Field goal kickers, they make them and they miss them, and it just was the worst time in the world to have a miss.
No, it was. I'm just hoping like you get a rewrite now. It's kind of like the rehash of Ryan Day's career. I mean, because this is kind of how 2019 started. Not quite the same because you're a really, really complete team in 2019. You lost a close game that was kind of stolen from you. But then 2020, COVID year, everything was just weird. And so I don't know. I mean, you got blown out in the national title game, but you won big in your playoff game. But, maybe this is kind of like rewind it, rehash it. You lost close in this game. And then, maybe next year you can do it all right. And you can win your, beat Michigan because you didn't get to play them in 2020, and that nonsense. And it's going to be hard to do it in Ann Arbor, especially with what we assume to be a new starting quarterback, but you got to find a way to do it.
The one thing I will say that, and this was before the game, they were talking about something Kirby Smart said that, they were talking about different experience. And he's like, at this point in the season, all these teams have experience. You played a whole season. So, football, the game itself is your experience. So, so at that point, whether it's McCord
or
Brown, that I think that, they should be well positioned to beat Michigan. They're going to have most of their offense, it seems like, back, and, outside the offense line, they got to, there's definitely holes on the offense line that's concerning. We're not going to get into that stuff tonight, but, that's definitely, in future shows we're going to talk about, because, they're going to have to they will have to pull a couple guys in on the transfer portal, and they are going after a few guys. So that's good. But that, to me, that's the biggest concern on the offense. It's even more so than the quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, I think these guys,
2 tackles with a new quarterback is kind of a scary thought.
I think either one of these guys could win with this offense. It's just that he needs a line to block for him. And, that you don't want, I mean, you kind of remember, the early 2014 when the line was very raw and new.
Yeah.
And then, and they definitely did not look like the same line at the end of the season. So, so again, experience comes into that, but that you need to get some guys in there to fill in some of the depth. Anything else for the game you want to hit before we get into our couple of things?
I mean, I've said this, not trying to harp on it too much, just you can't lose when you're winning by 14 in the fourth quarter, man. It's not like you're some Cinderella that came out of nowhere and you're David fighting Goliath and you're just holding on for dear life. I realize you have a lot of injuries and you're depleted and you're limping towards the finish line, but man, you're talent equated. Like, you got to find a way to hold on to that lead.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, everybody's got injuries at this point in the season. I mean, I get it. It's a lot of big injuries, but that's football and it comes with the territory. There's years where, teams go and they're pretty freaking healthy, and then there's years where teams aren't so much. And you can lose several big time guys in a game. I mean, it's just, it kind of sucks that Harrison was the last marker to fall.
That was really like the guy we couldn't lose.
And that's what ended up happening.
Like, I don't want to say losing Igbuka wouldn't have been as bad because you don't want to lose anybody, but losing Igbuka probably wouldn't have been as bad.
No, I know. I definitely agree with that. All right, let's get into the 3 things. I think we both have the same one with so we'll start there because that kind of goes in with what we're just talking about with Marv and stuff like that, we both kind of agree that
get experience for younger players.
like there's opportunities. There were opportunities this year. You blow teams out, and in Dave's mind, it's like we're not blowing them out enough. Like if you're up by 21 points on Rutgers, Toledo, whoever,
Arkansas State,
the game's over. Like I'm sorry, it's like there's a point in where the game is over, and like in the third quarter, start rotating some of these younger receivers in and stuff like that, and.
Well, like Toledo, you could have started rotating them in the second quarter.
Yeah, and get Ballard in there more. Like that was the thing that kind of frustrated me the most. And I'm just like, if he can play, let him play, because once Marv got hurt, and I've told you this, I don't care if the guy is a decoy. Like just get somebody that's going to run a safety off. Like,
but wouldn't it have been so much better if he actually was confident and wasn't a decoy? Like you could go to him.
Well, and if they get a little cocky, like, well, this guy hasn't played. The dude's got the jets that he can blow by somebody, and he's wide open. Then you give him opportunities at that point. But like, you got to get other guys experience. And I think Day gets a little too concerned with some stuff and letting kids get into the games and play. Let them make their game time mistakes. I'm not saying put these kids in the first quarter, but even if you want to keep your starting quarterback in longer, and we've both said that he maybe have kept Stroud in a little too long at different points this year into the fourth quarter, but okay, you're in the third quarter. Would it have hurt to have, when you're going to need these guys the most, like in this game, most likely CJ Stroud is going to be thrown to him anyway. So in the third quarter, keep your starting offensive line in, keep CJ Stroud in, start rotating some of the receivers in those of the younger kids. And
it's both sides of the ball. I mean, and I like Sonny Styles. I can't be too upset because he was supposed to be in high school still, but CJ Hicks is a 5-star linebacker. The guy barely got any defensive snaps this year. Like there were plenty of times that he could have got worked in and, done something out on the field, at least had an opportunity. And I just like Caleb Brown. And I don't know all these guys' injury history because Ohio State treats injuries like friggin' Fort Knox, the best. It's got to be the most well-kept secret in the nation. And it's just like,
that didn't end up on my final list, but that was on my list. Like
cut the shit with injuries.
Like, okay, we can start talking a little bit more. Like it's not, this isn't a nuclear,
right. That's not the nuclear codes, man. You're not
like, we can start talking a little bit more that like, hey, yeah, this guy's banged up. He's probably not going to play, or, hey, we're going to sit somebody out this game because like you have so many talented guys on your team. Does it really matter if Rutgers knows that you're not going to play Abuka or whatever?
That's what I'm saying.
Like, does it really matter? Like,
I know, but you got to keep it, tight to the vest to the very 2 hours before kickoff. Yeah, that drives me insane. But I don't know. Like, I know like Kojo Antwi and Keon Gray's, like all these guys, they look good. And the ones that were in spring ball, you heard good things during the summer, then you just heard nothing. And it's like, and I get it. If, they fell off and they didn't deserve to get on the field, of course, I trust Brian Hartline enough, but man, like there were times that you were up big that you could have got these guys in at different times to just let them make their mistakes, put something on film to teach them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I don't care how hard you go in practice. First of all, these kids aren't playing that much in practice to begin with. I mean,
I don't think so.
You're giving you're giving your top guys most of the snaps to begin with. So it's not like once you get into the season practice, they're not getting
you don't got a ton of time to practice.
Like they're not practicing a lot to begin with. So, give them some opportunities when you're up big in games. Like I get the whole black stripe thing and stuff like that. And, it's a badge of honor. I kind of wish that, I liked it, when Urban was here, maybe there's some things that they can tweak to it now. That, let these kids play and, see how they do in real talent. And then, let them build some confidence and, maybe then a Keon Graves comes into, because he played a couple games this season. You don't even have to burn red shirts. Like, I mean,
well, you didn't. I mean, during bowl season, they made an exception this year that you didn't have to burn a red shirt.
So, and maybe a guy like that, whatever, maybe he ends up making the biggest play of the of the season go out and win him the national title because he got some playing time through the season, and he needed to go play now.
Right, and he was confident in live reps, and he made a play against Georgia. I mean, we saw it. I realize we have really good wide receivers, but there were spots in the middle of the field that they would get lost in their man coverage, and you could kind of exploit them. I mean, I think one of those 4 freshman scholarship receivers could have added a little something.
Yeah. And that's nothing against Xavier Johnson. You can still play him.
No, he had a hell of a game.
You're going to get guys in there, rotate them and stuff like that. It's just, you need to get some of these guys more experience through the year. I mean, after Pryor went down, it took them forever to really give Hayden the type of they were forced to give Hayden the experience.
Right.
They both guys,
because everyone got hurt there,
but then it kind of makes you wonder, like, especially how good he looked against Michigan, why wasn't Chip getting more running experience earlier in the season?
Well, they were trying to make him a linebacker.
I get it, but
there was no reps there, obviously.
Yeah, at a point, I think they could have probably moved him over a little sooner. All right, what's your second one?
Excuse me. I mean, this is honestly for the entire defense, but if I'm going to nitpick one group, vast improvement for the back end of the defense, just fundamentals altogether. I mean, we didn't have a single cornerback interception this year. I don't even know how that's possible, especially for a place like Ohio State. Cover 50-50 balls, tackling, pursuit angles, not falling when you're covering man coverage, being more aggressive in man coverage to buy some time for your defensive line to get there. I mean, there's just a lot of things that they need to fix for the secondary as a whole.
Yeah, you went a little bit more general than I'm similar to you on this one. Obviously, all those things I agree with. I mean, like, I came down to between tackling and pursuit angles, and I decided I'm going to pick one. They need, especially with the safeties, they need to work on angles. Like, I don't know what you need.
It's been so bad since 2018. It's like once someone breaks the first line, it's like they're gone.
Yeah.
Because our safety is so far out of position.
Yeah. Like, you have to understand, you guys are the last line of defenses, and we did angle drills when I was in high school. Do they not do these anymore? Like,
I don't like, there's sometimes I don't know what they practice in their defensive backfield. I mean, last line of defense, safety, you absolutely cannot bite on anything. You got to play smart.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the one, the real one. Like, that's the first thing I'm going to start on. Everything else on you that you have on your list, I agree with all of that stuff. But there's just so many things, both from passing touchdowns to freaking running touchdowns, that if you just had somebody that was back there that knew how to run an angle to the sideline that the guys were trying to run up to try to cut them off, you'd be in so much better position than they are right now.
And I feel like, and this is where you and I have talked before about like strength and conditioning. I still think Mick does a great job, and I know you do. So, but there is something with like change of direction running that they need to work on explosiveness with that. I've never seen defensive backs look so slow. Like, everyone else, their defensive back is the fastest guy in the field, and they can run down anybody, and our defensive backs lose. They lose yardage on people when they're chasing them down. Yeah. And I've never seen that so consistently on a team.
Yeah. So yeah, they definitely need to work on that, a lot of that stuff. Definitely get your angle drills going.
I know.
All right, what's your third?
And I think you went something offensively with this one too. So I was going to say, work on a power run scheme and get that going. But then I really thought to myself, like, the problem with Day is, and what has been, is he loses a sense, like the flow of calling an offensive, football game. And I don't know all the different factors that play into that, but my thing is just do what works offensively. Like, this isn't Jim Tressel, man. Like, if running the ball ineffectively is going to mean you score 10 points, don't run the ball outside of, it's a distraction every couple of plays, whatever. If throwing the ball is all, if a team's going to let you do it, just do it. Like, and that's, I don't mean the whole Nike slogan there, but I mean, that's just my thing, is like, do what works offensively. It's easy to diagnose what teams are trying to stop. Don't run your head into a brick wall trying to be able to do everything or do what you set out for that week. You got enough offensive weapons everywhere that if they choose that they want to die by the passing game, you're probably one of the most talented passing games out there. Just pass all over.
Agree. My last one is it's on the running game, and I agree with everything you said, and I think maybe they need to go to the thought process that the pass sets up the run. Like I said, in this game against Georgia, I felt like as the game went on, there were opportunities to run the ball, and they were running the ball fairly well as the game was going on against Georgia. Why were they doing that? Well, Georgia was playing the pass because they had to. They have to get more consistent with the running game. And I know a lot of that this year had to do with both the injuries to the two starters, but Hayden showed that, he was capable. Chip showed that he was capable, when he got in there. So even Xavier, when he got in there, was showing that he was capable.
Yeah, I don't think Alford's a problem or anything like that.
I definitely think that they have to work on it. Like, you can't be Ohio State and not be able to run the ball. Like, you need to be able to milk some clock in here at points. It is the Big Ten. You're going to get games like, the Northwestern game. What if that Northwestern game this year was Penn State? And,
right, yeah.
You need to be able to run the ball because it could be a much tougher opponent. I mean, the weather that they had 2 years ago in Ann Arbor, that, it comes up that, you need to get a little bit more consistent. I agree with everything you say that, if you can throw all over a team, then go throw all over a team, but then learn how to work the running into it. It shouldn't be as hard as it was this year.
It should never be so hard to gain 1 yard.
And I get it that Stroud, didn't like taking off. I mean, he proved us all wrong in the title game, but teams around the country can run a ball without a running quarterback. So you gotta be able to figure that in. And maybe you go to sometimes I think, Day, he kind of bounces with his offenses. He likes to be a pro playing passing offense, but then he likes to do maybe some of the college stuff running the ball. And, maybe go.
Yeah.
If your quarterback is more of a, he wants to sit back there and sling it, then there's plenty of examples in the NFL of running plays that you could go find, turn that into a match running plays with the way that your quarterback wants to play the game. So I don't think that's hard. And you got the running backs that you should be able to run the ball at will. And if they're going to give you the run because they're trying to take away passing, kill them with it then.
Well, and I mean, to go along with that, because I don't disagree about running the ball. They need to figure out how to run the ball more efficiently. And I think, honestly, they just need to work on running the ball more at practice.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest issue. And that could be some of the issue where both the physical and mental toughness comes up, when, are they throwing the ball too much in practice? And, and these guys aren't smashing up against each other enough.
Because honestly, and I know you look at, you lost by 1 point to Georgia and you don't want to think about it. Even that game we played against Georgia, we would have had a hell of a time beating Michigan in that game. You got to know how to run the ball and how to stop the ball stop the run in the Big Ten. I mean, you got to. TCU played a better run defense, kind of. And no, they didn't. But it was equal. They didn't let Donovan Edwards go off on them on the fourth quarter. But I mean, they played a really good run defense, and we did for the most part of that game. But you got to know just how to, run on people, stop the run, because it's the Big Ten. That's what you guys do, unfortunately. I know you're trying to build yourself to beat the SEC, to beat the Southern schools, guys that can throw all over you or put up points, but you got to be able to stop the run, because Michigan's not going to be an easy out next year either. No. They're still going to know how to run on you. They're still going to have Donovan Edwards. I don't think Blake Corum's going to come back, but who knows? He might.
You got to, I mean, and I get it, it's a home, but, Penn State's going to be a very tough team next year. Mm-hmm. You got to go to Madison next year, and you're going to play Luke. So,
you got to go out to Purdue. Now, I mean, they got a new coach, but
that's to Notre Dame.
That's never been a good spot for us. Yeah.
Go to Indiana 3 times next year because all 3 of those games are on the road.
I am happy that Notre Dame is week 4
Yeah, it's at the end of September this year.
So, I mean, that's an acclimation period for both teams that you're not just going in kind of like cold the first game of the year, And I mean, Notre Dame got Sam Hartman as a transfer. Like he's no slouch of a quarterback.
Yeah, and they played a lot better as the season went on. So Marcus definitely got his footing underneath him.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, a lot of these things have to definitely, I feel like have to just change. I mean, it's not, you're not rewriting everything, but it doesn't hurt to address some of this stuff. We'll talk about this more in the season because we're not 100 or in the next couple of weeks because we're not 100% sure. He just kind of mentioned it just the end of the show on just it seems like he's got an open mind about bringing in a play caller or giving calling duties to someone already on the staff. We don't know yet. Both have kind of been calling for it going into this game, and then he ends up calling the game that he called.
He called a really good game, yeah.
I think he still needs to do it.
Eventually. I mean, why not just rip the Band-Aid and do it now?
Yeah. Like, I think Jim Knowles can still be the head coach of the defense. I'm not saying that you need to be up Jim Knowles' ass and stuff like that, but he needs to be able to be more accountable to everybody on the team. And like I said, I think that was the biggest thing that bothered me in the Michigan game was that, he didn't go. He had to be so concerned about what was the next play call when you're 1st and 35, when as the head coach, he should have been ripping G. Scott a new one right there on the sidelines because, we're 1st and 35 now because you just, lost your head on this one and stuff. I mean, that's something that you see the great coaches. I mean, Nick Sabans of the world, the Urban Meyers of the world. I mean, they let their guy. It wasn't just that they ripped them out of the game. They got their butts chewed out on the sidelines because of it. And, because other people are doing stuff, you're trusting your coaches with, running the game. So I can go be the head coach. And, so this guy knows what he did was wrong.
Ryan did coach with more emotion, I feel like, than he had previously.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he had gotten really excited in the Rose Bowl last year. I don't really remember too much like the 2020 Clemson game, how he was acting on the sideline, but he was really into this. And I think that's a big step. And so was Stroud. And guys just, that's infectious, man. People respond to that.
I mean, it was obvious that they definitely went into the the playoff preparation that they had nothing to lose. And, they were going to play loose and, and I get it. The grind of a season, you're getting everybody's best shot in the world. I mean, that's for all these teams. I mean, look at me at close games, even the Alabamas of the world have and stuff like that. I mean, Georgia had that Missouri game. Like you expect to go in, you're going to beat them by, 5 touchdowns. And then, they almost ruin your season for you at the end of the day. And that. So yeah, you're getting everybody's best shot. I get that. I just, I would love to see if he could find a way that, by giving up play calling duties and let's, go play loose then and let these guys throughout the season because he is a really good offensive minded coach. And I think that him and a play caller, he could set a play caller up to be very similar to him. Find a guy, whether it's on staff or finding a guy.
That sounds like Corey Dennis. And I don't want that.
I prefer them to go find somebody. And I told you earlier, I would like them to kind of go find maybe, maybe take the Michigan route where on these defensive guys that they're getting out of the NFL, maybe get an offensive guy out of the NFL that, that might understand how to also kind of give them some pointers. Like this is how we should run the ball. If you're going to run more of a pro style offense, like even next year, if we have more of a running quarterback, we can still figure out ways to run the ball and stuff like that, and it kind of worked the last couple seasons with Georgia. Monken came from the NFL. He's done pretty well for them to get there. I mean, their offense a couple years ago, before he went in there, I mean, they would not have scored 42 points. No. And, and you can have good defense and a good offense and, they can score. And I just think that, it would be a good decision for him to, bring in somebody with a little bit more experience and might not be looking for a head coaching job right away because maybe the guy has, doesn't really care about coaching in college and would rather as long as you have guys that can do the recruiting end of it
Yeah.
and, just be the play caller and, uh, the next job that the guy really wants is to go back to the NFL, get an NFL head coaching job. And, that's a guy you might be able to keep for a few seasons because, those guys are not always on NFL radars and stuff like that. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing somebody that kind of a good play caller that
And just has experience too.
doing it. And hopefully it's somebody that meshes well with Ryan. Cause I love Ryan's playbook. It's just, he needs to kind of be focused on it's just too much to be focused on to be the head coach and try to still run the offense, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I agree with that. Oh, shoot. There's something I wanted to say, but it is slipping my mind. Oh, gun to your head. Georgia or TCU?
I mean, I want TCU to win this game so bad. At this point, I would love to see it. It would be really awesome for college football if TCU won the thing. I think Georgia's going to win.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a lot closer game than some people are even saying. Like, TCU proved a lot to me in the Michigan game. And the different things I saw against Georgia's defense against Ohio State, Stroud ran the ball fairly well. And, those receivers were open down the field. Well, TCU is a very good receiving core. And, some of those plays that Stroud got, some good yards on, Duggan could take that to the house against, Georgia. So some of that stuff's interesting. I think it's going to be a high scoring game, and I think it's going to be close, but I do think Georgia will end up winning it at the end of the day. And, I'm not going to bet against them, but that's how I think. I think it's going to be similar to the semifinals. It's going to be a very high scoring game, but, Georgia will pull it out at the end of the.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Man, it's just, and I know I'm not trying to sleep on TCU, but it just really felt like a game that Ohio State could be winning, a national championship on Monday. That's why it hurt so much, that you couldn't close it out. I mean, it was a great game. Someone has to lose. It was Ohio State, but you could be winning a national title on Monday. You're up 14 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. You would definitely have the opportunity. I mean, you got the playmakers that easily could do it, but next year's next year. So.
Is what it is, man. Is what it is.
All right, let's close this one out.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
And I'm Mike.
OH.
IO.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added. And please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.